Okay.
I also think you're cool.
Thank you. What is the worst sales pitch that you've ever given?
Um, I don't know if it's the worst, but I find it the funniest one because I'm actually a salesperson by nature. That's my job,
Hmm.
and I'm selling to people all day long. And one of my favorite ones, which is probably the cheesiest, is after they've met me and seen my actual pitch on, perhaps it's about the product or about the finance, then the last thing I leave them with is, but the most important thing when you buy is that you get me.
You end it like that.
Yeah, I do.
You're like, yes, I want you to buy into me. You need me as your
Yeah,
personal associate.
which sounds a bit corny, but by the end of my sales pitches, usually people go, you know what, I like you. I'd buy from you.
After you said that you were a banker, I always think of my very first sale like that I closed, and it was probably the worst pitch for a checking account ever in the history of checking accounts. It's interesting hearing other people's stories of what their sales were. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Well,
Thank
now
you.
you can't leave me hanging. I need to know what your pitch
Oh
was for
gosh,
that.
it was so bad. It was so bad. Okay, so my supervisor is at her teller desk, and so she's off. You can't see her because she's in the back. And so I'm literally the only one in the branch. The person comes in, and I don't know the products all that well. It's probably my second week on the job. And I'm trying to tell this person about checking and savings accounts and the importance of having both. I am literally reading the brochure to her like a terrible PowerPoint presenter. I'm reading the brochure to her and saying, yeah, that makes sense. You should absolutely have both. Oh, look, there's overdraft fees. If you have overdraft, but then if you have a savings, then it will take from the savings. And so you won't have an overdraft, but it's the overdraft. And then I confused myself. So I was like, give me just a second. Let me just. It was so bad. And that sale took 20 minutes. And the customer was very patient, just sat there and just suffered with me through it. And it was just, oh, it was so painful. It was
Oh
so
my
painful.
god.
It was
Oh
such a
my god.
painful sale. I was surprised. I was very surprised she opened an account. She didn't do one of those, okay, I'll take the brochure and think about it. No, she actually opened one, and I was just like, that was the worst. I don't.
And you're like, nailed it.
I was like, I'm going on break.
And that's a great thing about making mistakes, though, right? Is that there's certain mistakes you make where you're like, I cannot make that ever again.
Oh my gosh.
I could tell you a couple. Now that you've mentioned that, I could tell you a couple that it destroyed me as a person, but it changed me to be a better person. It completely changed
Yeah,
my life. Yeah, you want me to tell you?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So this was okay. So I haven't worked in a branch as a banker for over 30 years, actually. So I haven't, this is way back 30 years ago. So it gives you an indication that I'm pretty old. But I was serving a client, and we were in a neighborhood that was very eclectic, is what I would say. Maybe diverse is maybe a better way. And so I met my first trans person, and they were in transition. And it was clearly a man who was transitioning to a woman, because their voice, like, I don't have a very low voice, and I used to get called a girl all the time. I wear a beard now just so people don't confuse me when they're face to face. But back then I'd never met a trans person before, and I slipped a couple of times and used the wrong pronoun. And then after the second time, they said, why do you keep referring to me as he? And I completely went blank. And I didn't know what to say. And so I had to literally, I said, excuse me, I just have to leave for a second. I went out and I was devastated. I went, oh my gosh. And
Mm,
I'm thinking inside my mind, this poor person is going through this, you know, very tough process for them to go through. And here I can't even get, where they need to be at. I'd never had that issue ever again, because it was, now it's more about, what's your preferred pronoun, right? And
right,
and
right.
you can know that. And but back then, 30 years ago, I mean, I mean, I didn't even know, and well, no, I did know people who were gay, but I didn't know anybody that was trans. I didn't even know that trans existed 30 years ago, right?
I never knew. I mean, it's because, well, coming through high school, I knew that there were people who were different, but I didn't know what different meant. And
Mm-hmm.
then in college, I got to really understand like the things that people who wanted to express themselves, whether they were exploring a different gender, transitioning to a different gender or sex, and it was more about understanding they may be going through this process because this is what they want to do, but it's, if I want to be in their space, it's more about me being respectful of who they are, like knowing what they want to be called, what pronouns they prefer to be used, and just like I wouldn't bring up any topics of conversations around you or your family that you would feel disrespectful. So it's more about learning how to govern myself where I'm still respectful of their lifestyle, of their
Yeah.
choice or whatever they choose, And so it's
Yeah, and
okay.
that's one of the things. Well, that's one of the things that's interesting, is that it's not choice. That it's one of the things that we, as hetero people, I guess, are you hetero?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. So as hetero people, we don't sometimes think in those concepts. It's not a choice. It's just who they are, right? It's like we use words in our everyday conversation that you can't apply. And actually, I saw a graph from one of my friends who's trans, and he made this graph. It goes like, it's like, I don't make my hands look like they're straight. It's like this, right? And on this side, you have a full-fledged, very to one end male, and on this side you have a very, full-fledged to the other side female, and then there's a huge gap in there, and all through that line there is different people who have different things going on inside them, and inside and outside their body, anywhere along that line. So it really it's a thing that people don't think about if it doesn't impact them. But the more friends that you make that are of a different place on side that line, it opens your mind to know that, what, it's just so much better and safer that you just say people are people. What's your name? Oh, I'm Leah. What do you want to be called? I prefer to be called Leah. And when I'm referring to you, like, uh she, her, him, they came to the party, which do you prefer? There you go. It's so easy for us to do. Just remember that Leah means she, her. Jim means he, him, right?
Right. Yeah, and
Xander means they and him, right? It's
I think that's so true, is that you don't know if you're not a part of that culture. And if you're not a part of that culture, it makes it so that it feels far removed from you, where you're not, since you're not in it or you're not a part of it, it's not adjacent, where it's like, oh yeah, no, I know of people who are a part of that culture or who are in this group. And since you're not a part of it, you don't know. Like where if you deal with people, you may know somebody who has autism, you may know somebody who's in the deaf community, you may know somebody
yeah,
who deals with the elderly or the people who deal with kids all day. There's just things that
yeah, yeah,
that you may not be aware of, just because if you're a person who's never dealt with kids as an adult, and you don't know how kids operate, then that's going to be hard for you to understand. If you're dealing with somebody, if you're talking to someone who's talking about the ills of taking care of their parents who has dementia or Alzheimer's or anything like that, you may not be able to connect with that. Oh, it's fine. Just tell them to do this and they'll
Yeah.
know what to do. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh yeah.
well, you don't really, you can't really say that you know what's going on if you're not a part of it. So I think in those cultures, because we don't, like you said, we don't really have the language to be able to describe what's happening because we're not a part of that. And so it's good to just be in a position to listen and understand that, no, this person chooses to present themselves this way. This is how they want to be addressed.
Yep.
Okay. And either you can accept it or move on. You don't have to entertain everything that is sitting in your path. You also don't have to have an opinion about everything. It's so fine to just be like, you know what? This is not my jam. I'm going this way. Great. But you don't have to talk down, demean, or bash anyone who is doing something that you don't agree with.
Yeah. But it's funny how so many people think that they have the truth. They have the truth. They have the truth. And it's, let me tell you, guess what? It's fucking not the truth. It's just not. it's just not. I'm sorry. You're dumb.
It's your belief. That is fine. That is your belief. That is fine. But it's not, I don't think that it's like some people can say, I have the truth. The truth is what it is. And it's like, yes, that is your perception of your life, of what you've experienced. And now you know it to be true. But that is also not the lifestyle or choice of what somebody else has experienced.
Yeah.
So that's not their truth. So your truth, absolutely, you can have your truth. Nobody can deny what your truth is, but your truth is not true for everyone across the board.
Yeah, it's funny how people don't get that though.
I tell you what. But thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Take a Space Podcast. I am your host, Leah, and I have the absolute pleasure of chatting with Jim from Film Rage. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm a big fan of your show, as you know. I listen to it as often as I can. I wish you had it 7 days a week. With the people you bring on are pretty rock star in my mind. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your show?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm old as fuck. People usually it's when they see me, they sometimes go, "Wow, you could not be that old." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really old, but I have this youthful glow about me." That I've had it all my life. People go, "Oh, you're only this." Like, I want to go to one of those guessers at the circus and get them to guess. You ain't gonna guess my age. You're never gonna guess my age. You're never gonna guess my age. Like, okay, let me ask you, how old do you think I am? I know you know I'm old. So I kind of gave you a little bit of an insight.
I don't know, because people think old. People think 50 is old. So I don't know what your range of old is. Like, when you say you're old, is it like I'm old because I've achieved a lot of stuff in my life and I'm now retired? Or are you saying you're old just because you've seen a lot?
No, I'm just actually age old.
It's just the numbers. The numbers have gone up, and that's why
it's just old. The numbers. I'm still the same person. I haven't changed in
unless you're 106. I mean, I can't really say that that's old.
You're pretty close. I'm just a little bit under 106. So the first thing about me is that I always, no matter what I'm doing, I kind of live by the last line from the movie Spinal Tap, which is, I like to have a good time all the time. That's my philosophy. So that's me. Our podcast was formed we're over a year and a half old, our podcast now. And it started because all three of us that are part of the podcast are all filmies, as I like to call it, and we're all heavily involved with independent film and just film in general. We're like film junkies. And I've been volunteering for film festivals for years as a previewer. It's over 10 years with different film festivals. They ask me to come and view, like they get so many films, and so I review them and rate them. So I've been doing that for so long, and it happened one year that we were at our favorite film festival, which is Calgary Underground Film Fest here in Calgary, and we were all sort of saw this late night movie. They used to have these late night movies even on Thursdays, and as a banker, you know what that's like. If you get out of a movie at 2 a.m. because it started at midnight and you're exhausted. And we sat and talked about it for 2 hours, and it was me and my buddy Bryce, and we just talked for 2 hours, and there was like 20 people around listening to us talk about it. And we had such differencing of opinions that we were just fighting like cats and dogs, but it was funny. Like everything that we were saying was just, off the cuff, and just, it was kind of like a poetry slam, right? Have you ever been to any poetry slams?
Of course,
yeah.
Yes.
It was like a film slam, and people were just laughing, and we were having such a good time. And one of our friends said, you guys should start a podcast because you guys have fun together. And so that's what actually started it. It was like just the amount of people that we hang out in the film community in our cute little city. And we just started it and have been having fun ever since.
That's awesome. Today, I kind of just want to talk to you about, so we've been in the pandemic. We're slowly coming out of it. Things are starting to open back up. People are starting to go to do their normal-ish lives, I guess. People are still having battles back and forth between mask and no mask and things like that.
In Canada, we did a lot of the provinces, like all the provinces got to choose differently, but most of the provinces chose to go with a single vax to get more vaccinations into people.
Yeah.
And so now they're trying to get the second vax caught up. I think we're like in Alberta, the province that I live in, they had an opening plan that if we get, like, they kind of held this sort of carrot over us to say, look, we need to get 70% single dose so we have technically herd immunity. And then we will open up and do what we like in Calgary. The biggest event that happens every year is called the Calgary Stampede. So if you've never heard of it, it's a huge agricultural and originally was based in agriculture, but there's a rodeo, and it's just, they call it the greatest outdoor show on earth. It's a massive fair. It's like nothing most people have ever seen. It's massive. And so they've been holding that over us to say, like, if we got to 70%, that we could have the Stampede again. So they seem to be on target. So it looks like we're going to have our Stampede this year. Not that I'll go, but it's like, it's like, but it'll happen.
In one place. Yes.
It's kind of scary.
I'm sorry, I'm getting the numbers because I feel like I am. No, it is okay. So it is 70% for at least the first for the first shot.
Oh, is that where you're at?
70% has received the first shot. So I don't see the numbers for the second, but we're trying to. The goal is to get 80%, but we're slowing down. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I know there've been like lotteries and things, right?
Oh my gosh, get a gun. If you get a shot, you get a gun. Get a shot, we'll give you a truck.
That's like
get a shot.
That's like you open a bank account, you get a gun.
I was like, I said, I don't think you guys are understanding how. Okay, I guess. So with everything,
that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Like, I don't know how much guns are. I don't own one. I never will own one. I don't believe in them. But I'm like,
you don't believe in them as they don't exist, or like they're not good.
No, I kind of know they exist. I've seen one. I've actually held one, but I just don't believe that people need a gun. I just don't believe they need one. Unless you're a hunter. Like, I think if you're a hunter, and you want to go hunt animals, then you should have a gun. But you don't need a pistol. Like, I don't even understand why pistols exist. What is the purpose of owning a pistol? The owner of owning a pistol is to shoot a person. It's not, you don't go hunting deer with a pistol.
So, okay, couple things. The state of the world requires that
the
the
world.
state, okay,
Wait, hold on.
the state of certain places
The USA? Is that
is
what you meant to say?
okay. I live in the States, and what I will say
Which
is
is the world?
the safety of, I say the state of the world because there's a lot of fear mongering in the news. And
yes, in the US, that is a big thing.
That's where I was going to go with it, is that because even when I watch news from across the pond, there's still a lot more fear mongering that happens, because I thought it was just like a US phenomenon, but no, it happens everywhere. So there's a lot of fear mongering that happens in the news. So in the places that I've been in, especially as a single woman, there's a necessity for protection. Now, that protection can range from being able to physically protect myself to having some sort of weapon with me: pepper spray, mace, a mallet, a mace, a gun, a bat, whatever the case, a dog. Like, it just depends. But there's a level of safety I feel like people feel they need to have to protect, to be able to physically protect themselves or their families. Now, I am not a gun advocate because I feel like people need to be trained in order to carry. I feel that it's important. If you're going to get a gun, be trained. Don't sit out here and just get weapons just because you are capable of having weapons. Actually be trained. Make sure that, if you have children, that it's put away, it's locked away. They can't get to it. But I'm not going to say, I'm not a person that, it's mostly because I've lived in Texas for a few years, but I'm not going to say that there's not a necessity for guns, because there are some people out there that don't know how words work. So sometimes you have to talk soft and carry a big stick.
But see, I wholeheartedly disagree with almost everything you just said. And the reason I believe that is because I have lived my entire life. Now, granted, I am not a single Black woman, so I don't know what that feels like. But I can tell you I have a lot of friends that are single Black women, and they also in Canada have never owned a gun and have never wanted to own a gun, because you know what? I think that has been bred now into you through years of being told you have to have a gun. But if people, like in Canada in general, most people don't, like, I don't know. I don't think I know, not one of my friends, except for my hunters. And I have a lot of friends that are hunters, but I don't know. I have no friends that have a gun. None.
No, I'm not saying that I have a gun. I'm not saying that I don't own like armed weaponry. I don't feel like that's why I said training is important. I have not done any training. I don't think that, like, I feel like people who do own weapons have to be responsible. I'm not going to say that you don't. But I feel like if you are going to own a weapon, whether it be a bat or a gun, you need to be able to know how to use it responsibly.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree with that.
But I do.
But I don't think the gun should exist, so that kind of negates that.
No, but if we didn't have guns, whether it be crossbows or an actual mace or pepper spray, whatever it is.
What's wrong with pepper spray? Why couldn't the world be generated with everybody just had pepper spray? I mean, if you got sprayed in the eyes, you can't see for a little while, but you'll heal.
No, pepper spray doesn't just affect the person who you're spraying it at. I have asthma, and if I ever needed to use pepper spray, Me and the assailant would both be out. Like he would probably come to before I do. You know,
Yeah,
I feel like
you need to be on a respirator when you come up. It's
like
what you do. What you do is you carry a pepper spray in one hand and your inhaler in the other, and
oh my
or
gosh,
wear
I would be.
your N95
Whoo!
mask, your N95 mask, and then you
Oh
can spray your
gosh.
pepper spray.
Oh, that would be like that
It
would be
could come as
terrible.
like a it could come as like a Christmas pack, you know, like you open
Oh
it up
gosh.
and it's got like a little thing of pepper spray and you got your N95 mask and inhaler. I know what to get you for Christmas this year.
Oh gosh. It better have goggles too because my eyes I
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
be able to see. I wouldn't be able to see anything.
yeah, the
I'd be
goggles
like,
should
hey
be
guys, listen.
fashion goggles. Can we make them
Oh,
fashion goggles?
oh gosh.
Fashion goggles.
If
Okay.
they would work. But I'm just like it's
What color
there
would you
are
get? Hot
probably
pink, purple,
purple.
yellow?
Purple.
I'm a purple fan myself, gotta
Yes, I
say.
love purple. Blue is calming, but purple's my jam.
Oh yeah, that's my jam too.
Purple's my jam.
Uh so sorry, the only reason I say I just don't believe that a society's should be based on guns because what happens is it just breeds more and more and more and then the guns just never stop, right? There's a statistics that Australia had started to grow its gun base, and so they started to criminalize a lot of the guns, and they've reduced it, and now they have hardly anybody that's killed by gun violence anymore. It's just a thing. When you eliminate a gun, it's so much easier for someone to pull a gun to kill somebody than it is for somebody to use a baseball bat I mean it's a real thing for someone to keep hitting somebody, right? The intensification of anger and rage to kill somebody with a baseball bat is, I mean, imagine the amount of the road rage that happens with people who
Hmm.
have guns and have road rage. It's easy for someone to go, I hate you, you just cut me off, bam bam bam. But if somebody's got um a baseball bat, which I also don't agree with people carrying around baseball bats for no apparent reason. But I think if you're gonna carry something, it's a little better that it's a bat, so you can still hide inside your car the baseball bat after you.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong. Um, the one thing that you don't like, or the one thing that you really take issue with, is the disassociation between the action and the person because they're able to use this gun to just fire off and potentially kill someone, or injure this person more greatly than if it were more of a associated connection, like with a bat or brass knuckles or a chain or whatever, where you have to physically be involved
Yeah,
in continuing to hurt someone. It's a conscious decision to be able to do it as opposed to firing a
yeah,
gun. Is
yeah,
that what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah. That's a big what I'm saying. I just think that when people say that, like, again, the history of people's countries come from certain places, right? Like Canada never had to fight its way out of being suppressed by another country, right? We're still part of the British Commonwealth somewhat, right? So it's kind of like they just gave us our sovereignty, and whereas the Americans had to fight for it. So we don't have a thing like, isn't the Second Amendment that everybody, I get to carry a gun because it's the Second Amendment? Is that right? So
Yeah, because there's this,
we don't,
like you said, there is a narrative that I have to protect what is mine by any like I have to protect what is mine by any means necessary. And because there has been such violence, like we talked about before filming with, whether it be massacres or thieves or somebody who is like rummaging through the neighborhoods to try to steal, manifest destiny and all this other stuff, right? If
yeah,
they are coming to try to steal or take what's mine, I have every right to protect myself with what is available to me. And the easiest thing, the biggest thing that I can go get, aside
is a gun,
from a small cannon, is a gun. So I can
which
go
is kind of
get,
that. Yeah.
yeah, I can go get, but I mean, and I don't think that if you are doing what is right, I don't think that it's necessary to have like machine guns as a personal gun owner, but people are going to protect themselves with what they need to protect themselves with. And I can't fault somebody for feeling like they need to be protected, but they have to explore the ways that they can protect themselves because guns don't work for everybody.
Yeah.
So like, or if you choose to carry a bat, if you choose to carry pepper spray, if you choose to carry whatever it is to feel safe. But one thing I talk with my brother who's in the Marines. Half my family's military, by the way. That's why I don't really have a I don't have a that's why I'm not against weapons because I know that they've trained. So I'm not if I'm with them, I don't feel like they're going to be hot-headed and anybody who I know who owns weapons, they're
Mm-hmm.
all very safe and some of them are from Texas. They're not hot-headed where they're just like I'm going to go shoot up HEB or I'm going to go take out somebody at Ralph's or whatever the case may be. They're very cautious and aware of what the situation is, and they're more likely to leave as opposed to incite something where they could potentially be hurt. Anybody who's with him could be hurt, or the other party can be killed. Like anything can happen. So they're more likely to leave, but they will protect themselves if necessary.
Yeah.
So I don't say that guns shouldn't exist. I feel like we should have um, more responsibility as to training these people so that if they do want to buy a weapon that they're thoroughly trained in how to handle it, how to clean it, and how to care for it so that it's not it can't get to be gotten to by children. They can't just grab it if they're in road rage and just like, you know what, I feel like taking somebody out today or whatever the case may be. And so I feel
Mm.
like if it's more responsible, I'm all for it. But everything is not for everybody. But
It's
there
true.
is something there. Go
I
ahead.
like we talked earlier. This is my truth. I don't think it's a lot of people's truth in the US, that's for sure. That's I think
Yeah, I mean, I
there's
think
a
it's
lot of
just
people
the
that believe in it.
absolutely. I think it's more so that because people have been put in a position where they have to be on the defense, they rather have the biggest stick in the yard than to not have anything at all and potentially be taken advantage of.
Yeah. But I think also that because the culture and again, maybe we're getting off topic again, but the which you know
It's
what, when
fun. It's
I
fun.
love talking to you, so I can talk about anything with you. But if think about a world where the people that were breaking into you also didn't have guns because they didn't exist, then
Yeah.
nobody would need to have guns, right? So that's the
Mhm.
world that I want to live in. I want to live in the world where there isn't guns, where
Mm.
people don't have to worry about guns because guess what? Nobody has them. What a concept! Like you wouldn't need a. What's the I mean, if you need a gun to go hunting, that's one thing. Or if the zombie apocalypse goes off, but you can still kill a zombie with with a rifle that you shoot deers with, right? So
True. But if there weren't guns, there would still be something to replace it. Like there's always going to be something there's always going to be something bigger, something worse on the horizon. So even if I don't know, did you see that show Into the Badlands
I've watched
where
some of it. Yeah.
they didn't have weapons?
Yep.
So I mean, they didn't have weapons, they didn't have guns, so there were knife fights, there were sword fights,
Yeah.
there were
Sword
baton
fights.
fights, there were they're like Ninja Turtles, like Donatello had a bow staff, or they had, or Leonardo had the katana, Michelangelo had the nunchucks, and uh Raphael had the scythe. And it's like you you can absolutely use other weaponry, but there's always going to be someone who wants to carry the bigger stick. So they're going to find a way to develop something, whether it's having a machine that can throw knives for them so they can do it faster, or they'll master a way to take you out with like an acupuncture needle.
Blow darts.
That's what they're called. I didn't even know what they. I was like, I know it's something, but I can't think of what it
But
is. Yes, blow darts.
there's poison darts that some of the
Yes,
Aboriginal tribes have. Yeah, blow dart,
yes,
where they dip it into the frog and then they whoop. Yeah, I,
yeah.
I can't debate the fact that there could be that concept of somebody always needing, but I guess the society that I live in and a lot of the people I know in my city, in my country, we live in a society where we don't have to worry about it because it's not a problem unless you live in a specific area where
Hmm.
everybody has illegal guns. You can't just easily buy guns, right? So
You can't
it
just easily buy guns in Canada, or
yeah,
you can't.
you can, but people just don't. Like I could literally walk down my street and survey, and I would say I don't know the exact stats, but I guess I only know, and I probably know thousands of people, and I know not like I ask them, hey, what are you doing today? Oh, by the way, do you own a gun? But most people don't. They just don't. There's people who are gun enthusiasts who buy guns,
Hmm.
right? To because they like to shoot them, right? Which is a hobby, right? Which is fine.
Right.
But the most people here they don't carry guns because I mean we just don't have the same level of violence. I guess maybe I don't know.
I tell you what, it's it's interesting when I talk to people who like, and I think this is probably one of my first conversations like this. Um, but when I about guns specifically, but it's interesting when I talk to people who grow up with such a different view, where their truth, their perspective, their experience is the stark opposite of what I grew up with.
Yeah,
Where I
yeah,
mean, and it's like, and before I had this conversation, I didn't really feel any way. Like my brother, who, like I said, was the Marines. He's in the Marines currently. Um, my one of my sisters and I was talking with my brother about she wanting to get a gun to protect herself. And it's like, well, why do you need a gun? Because the neighborhood that I live in. Okay, well, you don't need to be in that neighborhood. And that has always been my mentality of just like, if I felt, and I travel a lot, by myself and stuff. And so if I ever felt unsafe, or that I needed to get a gun or a weapon or whatever, and it's more than just like a hobby, like, oh snap, I've learned to be Merida from Brave and start shooting bow and arrows. Like,
yeah,
unless it's a hobby or something, then, and I feel like I need it for protection, having a gun with me is not going to make me feel safe. So I need to get out of whatever neighborhood that I'm in that I don't feel comfortable in. So
hmm
that's been pretty much my mentality. But I know a lot of people who are just like, no, you don't want to give people the opportunity to run up on you. And I totally get it. But
yeah,
just make sure that you are trained and you know how to handle your weapon, regardless if it's a katana, nunchucks, a knife, whatever it is, a bat, a chain, a brass knuckles, whatever it is that you want to carry to make yourself feel comfortable or make yourself feel safe, make sure that you handle it with the utmost responsibility and care, because the life of another person is in your hands at the point you choose to use it.
yeah. And on top of that, do it in fashion style with purple custom goggles.
I hope the goggles are not the ones that you have to, like, because that's it. Can you imagine? Okay, so an assailant is coming, and I'm like, because of course it's always dark and it's always a long walk in the parking garage to the car. Wait, I just put myself in poltergeist. Okay, let's see. We're not in the parking garage. We're out in the lot. I don't know why every time I think of a parking garage, like it's poltergeist. Like they fall in the puddle and they go into the other side. It's like I always think of poltergeist. Um, so we're in the parking lot, and I'm walking to my car, and I look back, and it's like the flash of another person, and then I look back again, and it's a person who's following me. who's like ducking behind the buildings and stuff. And I feel like, oh snap, I need to protect myself. Like, is it I'm gonna have the sound effects to put on the goggles,
Yeah,
and then get the mask on. See,
yeah,
that's I would,
yeah, baby. So
I
like,
would
snap.
probably, because I don't carry a purse, I carry a backpack. So I feel like it would have to be like I would have
Have
to
a
just have it
have a
reach.
fanny pack. I got you solved. The
The fanny
Christmas
pack just
package comes with a fanny pack. Easy snap. The stick-on goggles that are you just lick and stick.
oh,
Bam.
the liquid stick. Oh, I hope that I'm salivating enough to be able to lick and stick the goggles on my face. Oh no, this assailant is sprinting towards me. Let me make sure my pepper spray is in the right direction.
Carrying
Oh
their
my
pepper
gosh.
spray, and they're not wearing goggles because they weren't
Mask.
smart enough to wear their goggles.
I can't imagine. And then hopefully there's enough pepper spray in there, because if there's a second assailant, I need to be able to get him too. Because I'm not really a runner. I'm just gonna say that. So hopefully my car is close, which I typically do park close, and then there's nobody in the car. Because if it was a situation where they're in the back seat, like in every horror film, you know, I won't be able to take the car. I'll just look and be like, oh, there's somebody in there.
I always do find that funny. Like, it works in 70s cars, right? Because you had to pull the knob up. But like, how's someone going to get into your car and you're not going to notice if there's someone in the back seat? Like, walk around your car. Oh yeah, there's a crowbar mark in your back door. I think it's probably not safe to get in my car because they pried it open with a crowbar. I can see that, right?
Well,
they're just not magically hiding.
I don't know about anybody else's car, but I've set my lights so that my lights turn on in the entire car when I open the door, so I can see everything in the car before I get in. As soon as I open the door, oh look, there's a person in the back seat who's not supposed to be there. Guess what I'm doing? Closing my door and going the other way.
Not running, but walking briskly, I might add.
Walking briskly. Like, help somebody, help me. But then I also have, like, because especially if it's nighttime, I also have one of my sisters on the phone. Hey, talk to me until I get to the freeway, because I want to make sure I'm not being followed.
You know what needs to come with this package is we need to have like one of those GoPros that's got a GoPro hat on it, so that it's got a matching cap that goes with the purple glasses, right? Because the GoPro will film the person that's after you, so that it's like, you know what? Whoever finds me, be my body, alive or dead, they're gonna know who did this.
I hope alive.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
I hope alive, because the whole point is for me not to be attacked.
Yes, 100%.
Because if this product fails, I'm gonna have to write a letter and say, hey, it's gonna be a letter at the office. Hey guys, if you ever find me dead and there is like a lick and stick goggles on my face, I want you to send this letter out to Jim and let him know that he failed me. It was because of him, not because I don't run, but because of him that I was not found alive.
This pepper spray is going to be super powerful. It's going to be super powerful pepper spray.
It's going to be like bear spray. Just,
yeah,
oh my
20
gosh.
feet. It'll reach 20 feet, maybe 50 feet.
Yeah, no, he's not going to, like, waiting for them to come up on me. No, that's not happening. No, he's going to be within, like, give me maybe 10 feet right there. Yes, when he's too close for me to see him, get the spray out. And
nice.
Just,
with the GoPro, you can stream it live to me. So you just send me a link. Jim, I'm talking to my sister on the other call. I'm going to patch you in.
Call the people. I'm at 76 and now I'm running. Are you running? I'm walking briskly, guys. I'm walking briskly. Okay, give me a minute. It's okay.
I am not running. It's not gonna happen. This pepper spray is gonna save me.
Oh man, I cannot imagine what I would be attacked for. But I just feel like the assailants would have a time because I'm a talker, but being a fighter is it only comes out in my fight or flight, like life or death situation. Like, hey, did you bring a knife to a gunfight? And they're like, well, yeah. Okay, cool. I got bear spray.
They weren't going to expect that. They weren't going to
Yeah,
expect that. They weren't going to expect it.
that's what it is. Because it's like you, you just never know people's intentions, and I try to assume the best, but man,
See,
sometimes
see,
it's
I
a
always
snake in the
assume
grass.
the worst. I always assume the worst, and then I'm always pleasantly surprised.
What? Why do
Yeah, it's so
you
much
assume
easier
the
to.
worst?
I live in a world where I assume everybody is at least medium shitty. So it's like
Just medium.
just medium. Everybody
Okay.
is at least minimum medium shitty, and
Okay.
then it gets worse from there, obviously. So I just assume that. I mean, you must have seen since COVID started, right? It's like people people still don't care about other people. It's just like they walk down the aisle when it says arrows going the other way, and they people will just not wear their masks and go, well, I don't need to wear my mask. And you're like, okay, but I want you to wear a mask because I want to feel safe, right? Like it's just
Mm,
people I was hoping that, like, I think maybe the first month that COVID happened, I think people were kind of like, okay, I can be a good person, I'll stay in my house and do stuff, right? And then now that we're like a
the
month and a
first
half,
month.
I,
What?
maybe 2 weeks, you mean?
We
First day? Are you saying it's only the
when I
first day people
when
cared
I
and they
tell
stayed in their
you
house?
when I tell you people have fought the mask mandate so hard since the beginning. At first, people were like, "Look, I don't want to stay in the house. Just 2 weeks in the house. 2 weeks in the house." People were losing it. The states The states were crazy. People were just losing it left and right. I have the right to breathe.
I have the right to not serve you for being a
Right.
dick. How's
Just
that?
like, I'm calling corporate. Well, these you think I made these up myself? These are from corporate. What are you talking about?
Do you think I even own that font? I can't afford that font. That's corporate font.
I don't know if we lasted a few weeks. I mean, we kind of got normal with the lanes in the grocery stores
Yeah.
and then they took the lanes away because people weren't following them to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
It
They
was
still have all of ours on. Like every single one
Oh,
is still
really?
there. Oh yeah. And now it's a little bit the other way, although now because we're kind of coming out of it, right? We could be our province could be completely out of COVID um by the end of July. Like everything is fully open again.
Wow.
But they still, every store you go into in Calgary still has all the arrows, and I know people that are still super maskers, as I call them, and they
Wait,
if
wait,
they
wait,
walk.
wait. What's a super masker?
A super masker is kind of like the opposite of an anti-masker. So it's like they get mad as they're walking down the streets and see people not wearing masks when they're outside. But I have friends that are
Oh,
super maskers, and they'll go in the grocery store, and so if the arrow says go this way and they go this way. I have a friend of mine. She's a pretty big lady. I don't mean like big as in heavy, but I mean big as in like solid, stocky. Like she could be a wrestler or a MMA fighter, I don't know,
mm.
and she'll just stop right in the middle and go like this and just look at them, and the person will go, excuse me, and they'll go, and she'll just say nothing. She just looks at them in the eyes, and then she looks down at where the arrow is, and then she looks at them back in the face until they actually turn around and go the other way. It's the best thing I've ever seen. It's so funny. It's so funny. Yeah.
See,
It's
and I wouldn't. Okay, this is just me, but I'm not putting my life like that. It to me is putting your life on the line out of principle
but
because
she's not worried about a gun in the grocery store.
different.
The
Yep,
worst thing that's going to happen
different
is going to
truth.
be
I'm
a
telling you.
fist fight. There's going to be a fist fight, but no one's
Why
going to
would
get
I want
shot.
to risk my face? I'm not going to get punched in the face, have to fill
But
out
that's
paperwork
you and me. I don't want
because
to.
Look,
I
I
don't
don't
want to
want to
risk.
fill out paperwork because
Look,
somebody decided to put their hands on me.
we have all this to worry about. You and me are not going to be getting in any fights. It's just not going to happen. Right? We're too
Look,
beautiful. We're the beautiful people. We don't have to. We don't do things like that.
that
We're
is
okay, and
crazy.
we're bankers, so we don't mind filling out paperwork.
Look, look. Somebody decides to put their hands on me. It's got to be for a good reason. But it's absolutely. I'm not going to create a scenario where the lines are going a different way. Or if somebody was being rude or disrespectful to me or whomever I'm with, then yeah. But just to start, and because I would worry about who's carrying at this point, because in a lot of the southern states you can carry inside private establishments. So if you can openly carry, in Texas they have open carry, and it's in most of the other states they do have open carry as well. I never know who's carrying or if
Yeah.
someone is off their rocker. So I just, unless it is impeding my ability to live, I leave it alone.
Yep.
I've learned to just leave it alone.
Good model. I think
Yeah.
our closest state, which is Montana, I think they have an open gun law too. So
Oh, open carry. Yeah.
yeah, open carry in Montana, I think. Now I have a question. Did I ever answer your question?
Did you ever answer my question? I don't think I got to finish my question. I don't even think I got to finish my question. But we've had such a great conversation.
This has
I
been
don't think
fun.
I don't think that I've ever talked about guns this much because I don't have any. So it's really interesting to be able to have like an open conversation in regardless of how strongly either of us feel about whatever side we're on. I think that it's more important that we get to fully voice what we feel, where we are, and why we feel that way, as opposed to you trying to prove to me that you're right and me trying to prove to you that I'm right. And we can just have a conversation. We don't have to, like, I'm not trying to convince you anything. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I
Yep.
just want to hear where you're coming from.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting just because I don't live in the States, right? I live in Canada, so I have that my whole growth and growing up living in a different country that has completely different beliefs. And people get funny all the time, like, because Canada and the US have so many things that are the same, but in other ways we're so different, right? Like we're so different. I have well, we have tons of friends that live in the States, or they have like summer or winter homes in the States, right down in the South, and me personally, I've had opportunity with my work to go down and work in the States, and I said no, I won't go there for two reasons. For three reasons. Number one was medicine. So I have some very bad health issues. I'm a transplant recipient. So my transplant, I think alone, if I didn't have health care, I would have just died, right? Like it's in Canada, the Medicare is free. So I had a transplant that's probably a 200, 400, or maybe even $1 million surgery down in the States, and I got it for free. So that's one, because of Medicare. The other one is because of guns. But the other one, because I have so many friends of different cultures, ethnicities, like we said, the LGBTQ community, and that ever, I don't know if I could live in a city where there's so much bipolar. Like when we go to the movies, we go as a group of people, and it's like the United Nations, right? It's like it's people are there because they love film, and it doesn't matter where you came from. We talk about film, and it's a passion, right? It doesn't matter. But I see in certain, like even my friend in Toronto, I don't think I could live in Toronto. Toronto's also a very polarized city. It's like everybody lives inside their own community. And I like living in a community where, I can smell Indian food on Wednesdays that my neighbor does, or I get Thai food from my other neighbors who's Thai, right? Like it's a different I guess that's why I was mentioning to you about Boston. I felt that in Boston. Boston was one of those cities that I've been to in the States that everybody seemed to be like mixing well, if that makes sense. It's probably not outside of the core,
I
but right. But when you go to Harvard and hang out and you see all the young kids going to college and they're all a mix of people, it was cool.
I think there's more, and this is just my perspective from my travels. I think there is more mixing than what is shown in the media. Whether
Mm,
you're on Facebook or Twitter or watching the news, whatever it is, whatever medium you're choosing to consume, I think there's more mixing than people realize. So, in
that's good.
because I grew up in the Bay Area. The Bay Area has everybody, everybody,
Yeah.
everybody,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah, for
so
sure.
I went to school with a mix of different cultures, and which was really great. And it was different. Like once I left my community and went off to college, and I went to like a predominantly white institution, and so it was weird, like being in that world. But then also, it was even more different going to like where I live now. It's mostly black. And so it's like, oh, but there are events and things to do, hobbies to take part of, where you are there for the love of what you do, regardless of what somebody else's cultural background is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can be there in the moment doing what you love. So I don't think the polarization that is portrayed in the media is as as prominent as
Yeah.
people are making it out to be. But I do think that that is something to consider when going to um that's literally why like black people have a green book, so that when we like back in the days when we used to travel, there were places that we couldn't go. And so we had a green book so that we knew where to go, so that we're not
Yeah.
stuck in a sundown town, or we're not stuck in, a county that or a place that we wouldn't be welcomed otherwise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think those are interesting points to think about, especially when looking at coming to the States. But I think, you know, it's and that's just from my bias of living here. As a black woman, I think that there are more good parts than bad. People just make the bad, like there are definitely bad parts, some downright horrid parts, but I think that there are more good than
I have a
bad.
lot of people on the East Coast that I got to go see. Some of my podcast friends that I've met over the years. I would love to.
Yeah, if we can have just a podcast meetup, all the pod family people, just hey, come out to so and so spot. Everybody get hotel rooms, and we'll have like a little convention. We get to go kick it on the beach or go
Yeah.
up to the mountains. Okay, well,
Well, we're going
maybe
to
not the mountains,
Vegas in
but
November. We're going to Vegas in November. So if there's anybody that wants to come, the call is out there. The whole of Film Rage will be there. I think Kevin from the jury room is going to come, and
oh,
yeah. So whoever's, I'll put it more posts out as we get closer that we can make sure we can come across the border and whatnot. But yeah, it's if the border's open, we're going to be in Vegas in November. So
okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a really cool conversation. I absolutely appreciate it. Where can people find you?
they can find me anywhere on social media at Film Rage YYC. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and our website is filmrageyyc.com. And then if you go on YouTube, just search Film Rage Podcast. There's only one of us, so you'll find us there. And you can always send us emails at filmragecalgary@gmail.com. So a lot of places where I'm usually on every day. I take care of all the social media because my two other cronies are somewhat technical illiterates. So And actually, we have a new series coming up. So we've been just a film review podcast for our whole time that we started, and we've started a new series that we're going to be doing where we're going to be interviewing directors and actors and writers from movies that we've loved, and it's a spin-off of Film Rage. It's going to still be under our site, but it's going to have a new logo, and it's called Film Rage Presents Verbal Masturbation. So be watching for that. So it's going to be our first one's coming out this Sunday.
You know what? Let me make sure I write that down too, so I can look out for that.
There's our first one. We're going to be introducing the directors and writers from this movie that hasn't been released nationally yet. It's coming out in September, called Recovery, and it's about these two ladies that go to recover their grandmother from a nursing home during COVID, and it is the funniest movie I have seen in years. These ladies are hilarious. Yeah, it's the funniest movie I've seen, I'd say, in 5 years. So for whoever is listening, when you get a chance to see the movie Recovery, make sure you check it out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jen, for being a part of the show. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Take a Space Podcast. I am your host, Leah. I am so happy to be able to talk with you, and I hope that we can see you back on the live. Follow us on social media at Take Up Space Pod. Let's Take Up Space POD on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, make sure that you follow Champions of Discourse on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and our YouTube page, which is also Champions of Discourse. Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you all for listening. Y'all have
Thanks, Leah.
a great one.